But speaking of Star Wars, this is one that's making the rounds yesterday. This one's interesting. George Lucas talked about what his plans would have been, briefly, what his plans would have been for the third Star Wars trilogy that he never made, and he basically came to say that fans probably would have hated it. And you know what? Given the reaction, the online division over The Last Jedi, I'm at the point starting to think maybe, maybe not, depending on how it would have been completed and what would have been set up and what people could have been able to expect at that time. So it says here that it's well known that George Lucas, had he not sold his company to Disney, had plans for more Star Wars stories, that he had a sequel trilogy idea, one that he told Lucas's new team, but that they opted to not follow up on, and they went their own way instead. And some people have argued that is good. Some people argue that that is bad. I think when it was like The Force Awakens, it was looked at as good, right? When it was Force Awakens, and it was like, oh, we're moving away from Lucas and the prequels and all that jazz. This is going to be good. And then we see The Last Jedi, and we're like, maybe not. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we should have gone with what good old Georgie boy wanted to do, because he at least wanted to try something different. That was still in the same realm of what we probably would have known from Star Wars, but when Ryan Johnson tried something different, it broke the fandom in half. So maybe going a little bit too far out to the fringes wasn't so much the best idea. But it says here, where Lucas's story would have gone has thus far been kept pretty under wraps, but an eagle-eyed Twitter user has spotted real clues in the companion book for the TV show, James Cameron's Story of Science Fiction. In that book, Lucas states that in his take on the next 3 Star Wars films, episode 7 to 9, that they were going to get in that microbiotic world. But there's this world of creatures that operate differently than we do. I call them Whills, and the Whills are the ones who actually control the universe, and they feed off the Force. So he's okay. So in that regard, like breaking that down, we had the midichlorians from episode 1. Those were like the elements in our blood or our DNA that allow us to wield the Force, so to speak. And Anakin was born of just pure midichlorian rage, essentially, or a big midichlorian orgy. Of course, there's been rumors and speculation about how that came to be for years. I don't even, is there actually ever been a completed thing? Like, I know the Darth Plagueis story, and there's been the rumor that he was messing around with trying to create life out of midichlorians, and the Force, to fuck with them, created Anakin. I don't know. I've heard that before. I have no idea if that's true or not. But going into the microbiotic world, is that kind of like inner space, but for Star Wars, like going into where the origins of the Force came from? Would that have been the idea there? Because would there have been such a threat to the Force that they would have needed to go into its creation, into its origin, in order to protect it from maybe the Sith or darkness? And then they would have gone and found these creatures that operate differently than we do, the Whills, so to speak, because we know that the Guardians of the Whills was what we learned about that in Rogue One. There's like the shamans who also work within the Whills. That's kind of talked about a bit in the Star Wars fandom. Like Wikipedia has a little bit about that, and there's not much about it. So he would have been able to really go in, dive deep, I guess. But he does go on to say, though, that he thinks he could have done the films if he would have held on to the company, but added that, of course, a lot of fans would have hated it, just like they did Phantom Menace and everything, but at least the whole story from beginning to end would be told. Now, in that particular line, I feel bad. I do, because I get what Lucas is trying to say here. I get what Lucas is trying to do. And he would have told the story that, yeah, we probably would have not liked in its original outing, but years later, there would have been a greater appreciation for what it is, right? I mean, we're 17 years or 18 years now into Phantom Menace. And while Phantom Menace hasn't aged well, while it hasn't aged in a way that you could go back and go, man, that was so bad it was good, there's still a level of respect fans have for it. Whereas Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith have, I believe, gotten better with age, because I've looked at them through different lenses as more of being political in nature, and the different types of themes he was playing with has given me a new light on viewing them. And I'm like, oh, okay, I think I have a better understanding now. So as a result of that, I kind of get it. But I also sit there and go, there's still like, I don't know. I would have loved it if Lucas would have been like, I'm going to produce I'm going to bring in directors, and I'm going to do all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I'm going to bring in, like, just imagine a George Lucas produced, J.J. Abrams directed Episode 7, or a George Lucas produced, Steven Spielberg directed Episode 7, or something along those lines. Now, I don't know if it would have been any good. We still have Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to deal with, but I do believe, in essence, that has a lot to be. A lot of that had to do with David Koepp, who was the writer on that one, and Lucas probably not wanting to. What's the word I want to use here? I don't know. Lucas, maybe he had checked out at around that point, but it's been 10 years since Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and even that's gotten better with age, right? I mean, legitimately go back and watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Monkey scene notwithstanding, that's still horrible. I can never defend that. But if you watch all 3 of those or 4 of those back to back, you see what Crystal Skull pulled from, and a lot clearer, and I think you get a better appreciation for it. The last time I saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I absolutely found myself loving it for the first time in a very, very, very long time. And so, again, without the monkey scene. So I think Lucas, as far as producing goes, would have been good. I want to see more about the Whills. Going into the microbiotic world of the Force, I don't think is necessary. The Force probably works better when it's more of just this kind of invisible aura or field around everybody or around the universe. That's what kind of controls it. It's the mystique of the Force needs to remain. And the more you try to explain it or go in that particular path, I think would ultimately end up kind of, being more of a negative than a positive. Whereas the political intrigue of Star Wars, I think would work out pretty well. But anyway, I don't know. Part of me deep down wants to see what Lucas would have done. Another part of me is okay that it didn't happen, but is still sad about where we currently find ourselves in the Star Wars franchise.